Hello, I'm Linda Graham, author of Resilience, Powerful Practices for Bouncing Back from Disappointment, Difficulty, and even Disaster. In this series of conversations on resilience, you'll learn from many experts offering practices that help them recover their own resilience. In this conversation with Tara Brach, we're learning the power of bringing kindness and loving presence to moments of pain, fear, grief, and disappointment that wake us up and allow us to come back to our inner resources, our larger consciousness, our larger beingness, the foundations of our freedom and resilience. These stressful moments can actually radically reawaken us to our true potential and all of who we truly are. Welcome to this conversation exploring resources for recovering resilience. Today I'm talking with Tara Brach. Tara is an internationally known meditation teacher and the author of two best-selling books, Radical Acceptance and True Refuge. Tara is the founder and senior teacher at the Insight Meditation Community in Washington, D.C. And she offers meditation workshops and retreats throughout the United States and in Europe. And I met Tara at one of those workshops many, many years ago. So Tara offers podcasts that explore the value of meditation in relieving emotional suffering, and in serving our spiritual awakening and bringing healing to the larger world. 1 million people a month tune into those podcasts. And I know for myself and from what I hear from students and clients, these podcasts are truly life-changing. So Tara has co-created and co-teaches the Mindfulness Meditation Teacher Training Certification Program with Jack Kornfield that is currently serving participants from 16 countries. And Tara also brings meditation classes to businesses and nonprofits, to members of U.S. Congress and their staff, to judges in the D.C. Superior Court, and is active in bringing meditation into the D.C. area public schools and in prisons. So Tara, welcome so much, and thank you very much for bringing your warmth and wisdom to us today.
I'm delighted to be with you.
Yeah, thank you. So if we're talking about resilience and seeing resilience as capacities to face and deal with life crises, life challenges, and cultivating our capacities to cope well and skillfully with everyday difficulties and even disasters. How does meditation help people become more resilient?
Well, if you kind of think of what does meditation do in any given moment, it allows us to come back. You know, I think of it as a U-turn where we're usually fixated on fear thinking and just kind of caught. And meditation allows us to come back into the present moment, which is the place where we can start accessing our intelligence and our creativity and our love. So it really helps us access the very resources that give resilience.
So do you have an example of when you or someone you know has been coping with something difficult, having to bounce back? And how does meditation help you cope more resiliently at that moment?
Yeah, well, I kind of assumed you'd ask that kind of question. And I happen to have a good example of my own process. It's something that repeats now and then, which is I get sick in some way. And in this case, most recently, kind of back spasms that pretty much were debilitating. And when they happen, as most people know, you have to kind of drop everything and cancel your life some. And so I got another round right before I was scheduled to teach, a very large group of people up at Omega. And so it was one of those situations where I had to just find my way back out of a feeling of apprehension, the fear of disappointing people, and so on. And what helped me the most, because I was circling around trying to figure out how do I fix myself, how do I deal with this, and so on, was when I would really pause and then bring mindfulness and presence to, okay, what's this like? And when I could register, oh, this is really hard. just getting, oh, it's unpleasant, it's difficult, it's scary, there's it was that ouch moment where I was just registering, this is difficult. And actually feeling some grief about, wow, there's so much letting go. Maybe this will work out, maybe it won't, but there's so much letting go. And that was the moment of self-compassion, where I actually could feel that sense of softening and kindness, and realizing how many friends of mine are struggling in their own ways with physical stuff or emotional stuff, and that we're kind of in it together, and that what matters is really loving presence. So whether or not it would work out for me to teach, I had kind of come back, not just come back, but actually woke up some through a difficult situation. And as it turned out, my back stabilized and I was able to go and teach. But that's not always the storybook ending. And so I guess what I'm most wanting to share is that when it gets tough for me, if I can really get present enough, I can recognize the pain of a situation and get tender towards my own experience or another person's. And in that tenderness, there's a lot of freedom.
Mm-hmm. So do you have one particular go-to practice that very reliably brings you back to your resilience pretty quickly?
I do. It's what I call the rain of compassion. And the version of rain that really works for me it's an acronym that goes recognize, allow, investigate, nurture. And the nurturing is key because it's when we, investigate with mindfulness and sense what's going on. Okay, there's grief here, there's sorrow here. And then really bring kindness. That's when there's really a shift of identity. And in the old version of rain, the end was not identified, but that's not a step, that's more the fruit of rain. I think of it as after the rain, when we've really been present and kind, we realize a sense of our own beingness that is no longer hooked on a kind of a small, scared self. So I use the rain of compassion, whether it's in a very quick way of just recognizing and allowing and okay, or a much more long process as a way of recovering, as a way of more than recovering, letting whatever's arising become a kind of evolve my consciousness.
So do you suggest or recommend that people cultivate these practices ahead of time before there's a major stressor or a major emergency? Can people already have some resilience built in?
Absolutely, and you teach that beautifully, Linda. I mean, really, whatever we practice gets stronger. It's really true. So the more times people practice when they're not stressed out, making that U-turn and coming out of the thoughts and back into their bodies and into their senses, the more when they get caught in that trance of reactivity, there's this remembrance, oh, come back, just breathe and feel what's right here. Just stay with right here. And the more times we make what I call a gesture of kindness, because it doesn't, some expression of care, the more that becomes our habit, the more when we're stuck, and often when we're stuck, we're turned on ourselves. There's some place in us that goes, wait a minute, be kinder, and that is radical. That breaks us open out of the stuck place.
Right. So is that what you recommend to people who are stuck, overwhelmed, the resilience is just not showing up no matter what, to do these kind of practices, or is there something more to persevere in or add to?
When we're most stuck, when we're kind of cut off from our resourcefulness, clearly to try to, can I come back to the present moment? Can I be kind? But sometimes when we're most stuck, we need to reach out for support. And of course, it's really critical that we feel we can reach out to each other, conscious relating, really connecting, feeling our belonging again. Because when we're stuck, it's like the belonging's severed. or be in nature. But even with a meditation, we can reach out. I often encourage people to pray. I think John O'Donohue said it so beautifully that prayer is the bridge between longing and belonging. And when we're stuck, when we reach out with real sincerity, like, please, universe, love me, help me, make me feel safe, that very sincerity creates a kind of porousness, and we become more receptive to the love and the intelligence of the universe. And sometimes we can reach out to some kind of formless sense of love that's in the universe, or it might even be to bring to mind a person that we consider an expression of love and wisdom. It could be our dog, it could be the Buddha or some spiritual figure, but just to reach out. And then what we find, and this is what I think is so powerful, is that as we feel some sense of connection with something larger, we realize that it wasn't outside of us, that loving presence was always here. It's just we were cut off. So that would be, when we're stuck, reach out with real sincerity.
I do recommend that too.
Yeah.
So in these last few minutes here, any additional insights or even questions about resilience? Are there things that are important about resilience that we don't often think of, or maybe don't know to think of in terms of resilience?
Well, I think that what we forget in the moment is that understanding of no mud, no lotus, that if there's no stress and no stuckness, we don't actually call on and call forth our full potential. What I sometimes think of as whether it's our true nature, our Buddha nature, sometimes call it our future self, who we're emerging to manifest. Mm-hmm. So it's really in the moments of stress that we have the capacity to wake that up often. And for me, resilience, it's real spiritual resilience, means not just coming back to par. It means that every time there's that encountering difficulty and bringing presence and kindness to it, we actually open to the truth of who we are in a deeper, fuller way. We get more familiar with it, so that awakened heart mind is more the truth of who we are than any of the stories. Every encounter has that potential to deepen that familiarity with who we really are.
Thank you, Tara, for so much wisdom, so much warmth. I really, really appreciate you being here on this interview.
Well, Linda, I know we're very resonant in our teachings and what we value, and I'm so glad for your writings and your teachings. I know how much they touch many, many beings. So a genuine thank you to you too.
Thank you. So this interview and all the interviews in this series will be archived on my website, lindagraham-mft.net. May they be truly useful to you and yours.